Happy Saturday, folks, and welcome back to Injection of Inspiration. Hope you guys are doing well. Graham GSM Matthews here, and every single Saturday right here on the show, I inject you with your daily dose of motivational advice, helpful tips, etc., etc. Check out all the previous installments right here on the channel, all 11 of them, I believe. It's been 11 or maybe even 12, actually. Wow. Crazy to think we've done that many episodes in the past couple months, but I appreciate all the feedback, by the way. I've gotten some of it via Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and all that other shit. I appreciate it greatly, but today, I figured I would talk about social media, and I'm surprised I have yet to talk about this just because it's something I know oh so well, for better and for worse, mostly for the better, but I wanted to discuss the pros, cons, and really the good side of social media, because I feel like it gets a bad rap more often than not. Especially when you're younger, it's really all a matter of how you use it. And if you can use social media the right way, then it will be the greatest thing you have ever done in your life, or at least one of the greatest things you have ever done in your life. It certainly has benefited me in more ways than one over the past, I would say, decade, but more so the past 5 to 6, 7, 8 years. Really any form of social media. It could be right here on YouTube, it could be Facebook, it could be Twitter, it could be Instagram, Snapchat, whatever, Vine. The last two I'm not really all that familiar with, or even the last three. I don't use Instagram. I have no intent of ever creating one. I don't have a Snapchat or a Vine. I really could not care less about that stuff. But, Instagram to an extent, but more so Facebook and Twitter is what I would suggest that you will find really people that you've never met before, people that you share a common theme with, a common bond with from across the world. And that's really the beauty of social media. And again, it's really all a matter of how you use it. And it's not really, in the last couple years, in the past 5 to 10 years, the older generation, and I'm not talking about just 60 to 7-year-olds, I'm talking about like our parents. And if you are a parent listening to this, I'm talking about like 30 to 40, 40 to 50-year-olds are on Facebook now as well. When I first started Facebook, I created my account in February, so well over 7 years ago, 8 years ago at this point, February of 2009. I created my Twitter in June of 2009. I did not use Twitter all that much for the first few years. I really started to get into it around like the summer of 2011 for all the wrong reasons at first. But Facebook I was using pretty much nonstop from February 09 onward. And YouTube I created, like 09 was the year I really kind of entered the social media world. I never had MySpace. I wasn't around for that phase, thank God. I created my YouTube in March or April of 2009. And again, though, I would not start using it as much as I have been until maybe 2011, 2012, so the past 5 to 6 years. But anyway, when I first started using Facebook around February of 09, I was still, I think I was in 8th grade at that point, in middle school, the end of my middle school career, just entering high school around that time. And as you could probably imagine, I did not use it the right way. I was very immature. And most people are around their middle school, high school years anyway, so it's really nothing out of the ordinary. And people still are very immature on Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that. And it really doesn't matter what age you are, and I've talked about it here, here on the show before, in terms of wisdom, and it can really come at any age, and I feel like people within them know what's right and can kind of gain that wisdom, and they already have that within them. It just kind of takes longer to dig that deep and really find it within themselves. But anyway, when I first started using Facebook, I would write up the most just crazy shit, all the most just desperate shit, and it's really hard to provide one example, but I would not use it the right way to kind of sum it up. In a nutshell, I would write a lot of stupid statuses. I made it a point to tweet, or actually Twitter at one point. I still do. I do tweet every single day, but not just for the sake of tweeting. I tweet out my promotional links, articles, and shit like that. For Facebook, it's a lot different. You're not really spreading your work unless it's to people that you know. With Twitter, I think it's a lot more likely you'll find people, and YouTube as well, that you'll find people that you've never met before, that, as I had said, you share that common bond with, or whatever it might be. Facebook, not so much, because of the way that it's, it's a different kind of platform, just the way that it's set up, with that you're only really connecting with people that you know. Unless you're leaving a comment on an article on a page that you like, you might be able to connect with people that way. And I certainly have met people through Facebook, not as nearly as many people I've met through YouTube and Twitter, specifically Twitter, but it's still good for that as well. But I think Facebook for a lot of people is a form of venting, and Twitter and also Instagram and shit like that, which is fine. But once it goes past a certain point, like people would use Facebook, and I still see this to this day. I still witness this on almost a daily basis. I don't really use Facebook all that much. I use my official Facebook page, facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews, cheap plug. Not really my personal page as much. But people will write just the most incredibly dumb stuff. And I'm not talking about like politics. I mean that too, but and religion and shit like that. But sharing your views on something is one thing. That's a whole other topic for a whole other day. But I'm just talking about when people break up and they get back together, and they break up and they get back together, and they feel the need to make it Facebook official that first second, and then when they're having a fight, they break up the very next second. I see that all too often, and that's one thing. But then to break up with someone and then to go fucking off on them, whether you're mentioning their name or not, it's pretty obvious who you're talking about. If you had just gone single on Facebook and then you're talking shit about someone, it's pretty obvious who you're directing that status to. And don't worry, I know from experience, I've done this in the past. Not recently, obviously, but maybe 5 or 6, 7, 8 years ago. But it's just so incredibly immature, and you don't put yourself in the best of light. And I mean, it's one thing to not really give a shit what other people think, which is personally fine, because I don't give a shit what other people think, but it's more so having respect for yourself. Like, have respect for yourself and other people. And just, if you have a problem with someone, don't take it to social media. I think the best thing that you could do with social media is just don't respond. If there's people coming at you, whether it be Facebook, Twitter, in the comments, people are attacking you, either if it's a Facebook thing and you posted something and someone left a comment that you may not like, you can either delete it, mute them, block them, whatever. Same thing with Twitter. Just one block button away and you don't have to deal with that person anymore, unless you have to deal with them in person and you know that person. But otherwise, with Facebook, you'll get a lot of, and specifically Twitter as well, you'll get a lot of people who don't agree with what you say, that will call you out, that will make fun of you for certain shit. And there's awful people out there like that really just kind of get their kicks on bothering other people on social media. The best thing you can do is ignore it. Don't even engage in a conversation with these people. You're simply wasting your own time. They want to waste your time, so you're really just kind of giving into them by interacting with them and talking to them. Just who fucking cares? If it bothers you that much, maybe you could talk to them privately, but doing it publicly to me is just, you're making yourself look bad no matter whether you're the victim or not. The other person obviously doesn't care, and they just really want to make it a point to bother the hell out of you or make you miserable. Just don't interact with them. Facebook is the same exact thing. Don't leave statuses making fun of people or calling someone out, even if you have a problem with them, even if they have done you wrong. Unless it's something super serious or whatever. But even in that case, keep that shit private. Talk to them privately. Keep it to yourself. Talk to other people that you know in private, not publicly on Facebook. That shit does not belong on there. With Facebook, I would suggest, sharing things you find interesting, interacting with people, keeping in touch with people. If Facebook was not around today, I would not be keeping in contact with a lot of the people. I don't talk to people I went to high school with anyway, but there were people from middle school. I moved away from the town I went to middle school in 7, 8 years ago at this point, and I lost contact with pretty much everybody, and for good reason. I didn't really care about a lot of the people I went to school with even back then, but there were a few cool kids I went to school with that completely lost contact with, but through the power of social media, I've been able to keep in contact with them, reconnect, and hang out and shit like that, and it's like no time has ever really passed. So I think the biggest benefit of Facebook and Twitter and social media in general is keeping in touch with people. And if you're the type of person to see someone that you used to go to school with and you're jealous of something they posted, excuse me, I'm all over the place today. But like if you see something they post and you're like, oh, why is that person doing so well? And as opposed to motivating yourself, you just kind of feel jealous or you feel bad for yourself that you're not really at the spot that they are or whatever. Either, I'm not saying defriend them or block them, but just don't pay attention to it. I feel like a lot of people just spend way too much time on social media for all the wrong reasons. Like reading other people's posts is one thing, but like reading them to make yourself, to feel bad about yourself is really just kind of a waste of time. And with Twitter too, I mean, there's so many other ways I could take this. I don't want to go too long with this video, but with Twitter, again, it's not really a diary, a way that I used to use it many years ago. Using it as a platform to target other people it's just a waste. Like, no one cares about that stuff. I've talked about it here before in the show, and that no one really cares if you're miserable, so you might as well be happy. That's my favorite quote from Cynthia Nelms. I always found that to be quite profound. But Facebook and Twitter, I find, are the two biggest, most popular platforms for people just to engage in meaningless, fucking useless debate. And like I said, another huge benefit of Facebook is not only keeping in contact with people that you used to be friends with or you met somewhere else and you wanted to befriend them online and kind of keep in contact or whatever, because people, drift away for whatever reason. You graduate, you move away, blah, 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 you get a new job. You don't see those people in reality as often, but keeping in contact through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever, can kind of maintain that bond. But also, not only maintaining relationships, but creating relationships as well. I met my girlfriend through social media years ago, and it's a long story. I've talked about it here before on the show before, but pretty much all of my best friends, for the most part, actually I met through wrestling, not really necessarily online, but I met my girlfriend online. I've met a lot of my best friends through Twitter, a lot of great people I talk to on a daily basis through Twitter, people that I've been following for 5, 6, 7 years at this point. It's crazy to think how much time has passed. And it doesn't matter whether they live in the same state, same town, same country, same region of the world. It's incredible how many people you can touch by using Twitter and Facebook and YouTube the right way. If you're not only using it to rant on other people and to call that person out and doing it for useless, meaningless shit, but you're instead using it as a platform to meet new people. And, you'll just meet people, and I've talked about this before, too, in the whole Friends videos a couple weeks ago. But in regards to meeting new people, if you don't really, if you don't try too hard, you will find people just naturally, just organically. I've met so many cool people in doing YouTube right here, and people just find my videos, and I've made lifelong friends through people I've either supported on YouTube or they supported me, or vice versa, or it goes both ways. I know that's happened with a lot of people that I know. It's just incredible. I've seen people that I've connected with on Twitter and they connect with each other. That's happened multiple times in the past. So that's also really, really cool. But just to see stuff like that is so fucking awesome. And I've talked about it before, but when I went to SummerSlam a few years ago, as well as last year, a lot of the people I've gotten to talk to through Twitter over the past 5 to 10 years, not really 10 years, but like I said, for the past 5 to 8 years, I got to meet over SummerSlam weekend in New York about a year or two ago. And it's so fucking cool to meet these people that you've talked with, so much online. Then to finally meet them, they're just as cool in person as they were online, if not cooler. So that you create those lifelong friendships and bonds just through social media if you use it the right way. Just don't be an idiot. Don't interact with people that are gonna drag you down, that are negative. There's so many other examples of how you can use Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and just social media in general and all the great things it provides you with, opportunities, getting in contact and following your favorite celebrities, and on the off chance they tweet you or like your tweet or retweet you, that's fucking cool. Something that would have been never possible, that never would have been possible 10 years ago, 10, 20, 30 years ago, whenever. That's really only come into light in the past 10 years or so with the rise of Twitter and Facebook and all these other social media platforms. Just use it the right way. I feel like I'm all over the place in this video, and there were a lot of other things I wanted to talk, but that just aren't coming to mind right now that I really wanted to talk about. But at any rate, maybe we'll do a part 2 in the future. But as far as this video goes, this is going up on YouTube, another prime example of how you can affect other people just by putting up a video or putting out a tweet or putting out a status. It's incredible the amount of people that unite through social media. And you see all the negative sides of social media, like with the election last year and people going back and forth on who they think is better. And that's one thing to have an opinion, but to fight someone over it to me is just a complete waste of time. It's something I've never really wasted my time doing and talking about politics or religion online, just because it never really leads to anything positive. But just keep a lookout for all those awesome people. And I talked about it before. People will always say, oh, I'm surrounded by so many fucking terrible people at my school, in my town, blah, 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 at my workplace. There's so many terrible people here. There's not a good person in sight. No one I can befriend. Well, you know what? In an instant online, just by joining Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, or going to a chat room or whatever else, You can meet someone who shares the same views on life that you do, that likes something else that you do, likes the same things that you do, and all this other shit. And you never know who you'll befriend, who you will befriend on Twitter and all these other social media platforms. So again, I feel like this is not my best video. I'm always my biggest critic, but anyway, guys, if you liked it, let me know. If you didn't like it, let me know. Leave a comment. Like the video, subscribe, and all that other good shit. Share the video, and we'll be back next Saturday with an all-new episode of Injection of Inspiration. But until then, guys, enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch you folks down the road.